Hello YouTube! Welcome to another episode of me cringing at my student work. Today I'm going to go through my work that I did at FZD in term 3, which is my final projects. If you just wanted to know about my student experience at Concept Art School, to see if going to Concept Art School is worth it for you or not, you can skip to the end of this video. I'll have the times in the description. But moving on to term 3, I already covered term 1, which was art fundamentals, and then term 2 was more based off design fundamentals. Term 3 is kind of bringing all of those together into a big project. It's an adaptation of an existing book. I think the main goal of it was really pushing like the entertainment value of everything and having more unified design and cohesion between all of the works that we did. I tried to pick two genres that are quite different. So the first one is more traditional high fantasy, like Lord of the Rings vibe, and the second one is sci-fi. So yeah, let's get into it. The first project that I did in term 3 was based off of Ghost King by David Gemmell. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm probably butchering his name. It's basically a story that's kind of an appropriation of the Arthurian legend. King Arthur, Merlin, all that jazz. So between term 2 and term 3 we had a break. And during that break we were supposed to do research and also come up with the base designs and 3D models. So I spent some time at the library. They had all sorts of, historical reference. So yeah, I grabbed a lot of medieval architectural reference there. This is one of the first pieces that I did, which is based off of the Merlin character of the book, and it's supposed to be his private study. So he's the king's right-hand man. If the king had like a PA but he was like a wizard, yeah, that's him. So the focal point would be the crystal ball in the middle because he's into divination. There's also these 3 crystals, as you can see here, that are also a part of the story that I wanted, I wanted this part to be kind of the secondary focal point. This is already a redesign. I based it off quite traditional like Gothic church architecture, but the scaling is like super off. So I think I changed it. Yeah, this is the line drawing I had. There's a lot of detail density in the line weight, which is okay, but I think a lot of the density that I had here was like a repetition of design elements. So it was just, an array of pillars, a bunch of books, a bunch of banners. There wasn't something like very interesting, and this part takes up like quite a huge percentage of the page. Looking back, I wish I would have looked into this area more and put, more interesting things in this space. So this is the color wash. Looking back at old work, there's always like a lot to criticize. I'm not gonna say like I hated my work in term 3, or maybe I just didn't have, the knowledge back then that I wish, some things it's like you just change it a little bit and it would have looked a lot better. Back then I wasn't really aware of putting enough saturation into my lighting. So my highlights and my shadows especially were very desaturated, almost gray, so which is why you can see in a lot of the work that I have at FZD, it has that very muted gray wash to it, and it just kind of muddies all the colors and doesn't look that nice. If I could go back, that is one of the big things I would change. It was a good learning experience, and I really enjoyed doing this project, so I think that's what matters, and I learned a lot from it as well. The next one is the Brotherhood Hideout. This was based off of medieval fortress. It's kind of like the Night's Watch in Game of Thrones. It was basically these bunch of dudes who were looking out and trying to fight off the evil witch queen in the story. It comprises of their living quarters, this eating dining area, this armory in the middle, and storage, and also this construction site. I thought that this was just like a cool silhouette of the medieval construction contraptions that they had back then. I actually really like the different elements that I incorporated here. Like each room has a very specific function. The one thing that really ruins it is actually the composition. So it's very kind of 50-50, like half-half. If I moved the camera a bit to the right and saw a bit less of the construction, maybe it would have looked better, because then it would have that 70-30 split instead of like 50-50. Right now it's just difficult to discern where the focal point is, and it's giving that kind of visual like ambiguity. Maybe it would have been nicer to see more of the living space, because there's just more to see there than like a bunch of wood planks on the side. Maybe I made the textures a bit too overpowering. So like the textures on the ground, the textures on wood, the textures on bricks, the textures on the roof. There's so many textures that are just outlined in black that, you know, I would definitely not do that now. So one of the characters that I really resonated with in the book is this chick called Litha. And she's really into archery, and I've always been a huge fan of like elven archers. You know, whenever I play D&D, I always play elven archer because I'm a basic bitch. I just find archery to be such an elegant way of harming someone. That aside, I just thought archery was like super cool, and I wanted to push that idea more. So instead of just being into archery, I was thinking she could also be into like the actual making of the bow, showing how there's like trees around. She would like chop the trees down here to gather the timber. And then I watched this like 2-hour-long documentary on how people made bows traditionally and the equipment that they used, because the silhouette of the equipment that they used was also super interesting. So I wanted that to be the focal point of this piece. Yeah, so this is the painted version. I really think my use of color dodge ruined this, along with like the colors being kind of weird. It really, like the color dodge, I didn't really know how to control my color dodge or express that feeling of a flame. I just kind of went ham with the soft brush and went, yeah, I don't really like this one, but it's okay. In term 3, we had 2 different subjects. We had entertainment design and production design. Entertainment design was taught by Feng, and he basically focused more on the pitching type of concept art, so it was all cinematic shots. And then Kingston's class was production design, and it was the kind of 3/4 diorama, like this type of stuff that you saw. It's good that they had those 2 different classes so we could differentiate. Yeah, this was an interior shot, but the one big takeaway I had from this is the local color. Back then, I wouldn't really have a plan for my color palette. I would just kind of follow the local color of the reference that I had. In the Middle Ages, everything's made of wood, and wood is brown, so everything is brown, haha. But Nia, there are different shades of brown. It's not just one fucking shade of brown. The table could be a warmer brown, and then the bed could be a paler green tinted brown, because wood is chopped from different trees. I just didn't think about that, and I just kind of put brown everywhere. So when you look from afar, it's very monotone. You know, it's kind of disheartening when at the time, you know, you spend a lot of time and effort into something, and then you look back and you're like, I should have just done this. Maybe I'll redo this one because I quite like this shot. Maybe I'll, except for this tangent of like 10 things in the corner, maybe I'll do a repaint of it in the future, see if I can improve it. And this, I think this is the last one. This is the interior of the study. This one I did with line work because I actually struggled so much with this render one that I just decided at the end for my cinematic shot I would do one with line work. A lot of people did do line work for their cinematic shots, but I just kind of felt a lot of pressure, and I didn't know what I was doing when I was painting like a whole scene. I didn't have the confidence. You know, same thing with the gray, it looks kind of muddy. I probably would just redo everything again with like a different way of rendering it. I think a really big takeaway that I had for this, because this was in Feng's class, and he was saying how everything in the scene should be like pointing towards the main focal point. Before that, I had all these items were just randomly placed. Like this skull was facing this way. Everything was just, didn't really have much thought to it. He made me rotate everything to look towards the focal point. So you see how the scroll is kind of looking towards there. This stuff is pointing towards the focal point. This book, the skull, this chair. So every small thing in the scene would be subtly leading your eye to the focal point. Yeah, and I think that's the end of my first project.
Sonic boom!
During term 2, I did an interior cutaway of a Hong Kong fruit market, and Feng recommended me to go down that route for my final. One of the strategies for the final project was to do something that you have more knowledge about. So my friends who were really into character design would focus more on characters. Some of the people in my class who were really into gothic themes would do something that's, you know, more inclined towards that genre. That's why I picked Hong Kong, but I wanted to give a sci-fi twist, so I wanted to do like a cyberpunk Hong Kong, loosely based off of a book by William Gibson, Mona Lisa Overdrive. So I read Neuromancer before I came to FZD, and that's why I picked Mona Lisa, because it's part of the same trilogy. The characters and the locations are loosely based off of that, but just, you know, Hong Kongified. A lot of the research that I did was more so understanding the genre of sci-fi and cyberpunk, actually. Why did it originate in the 80s? That kind of high-tech, low-life, you know, the struggle between mega corporations and oppressed peoples living with very high-level technology, but maybe they have really shitty living conditions. You know, there's a difference between Blade Runner sci-fi and Dune sci-fi, right? So the technology, though it's high-tech and affordable, it still has a very like utilitarian use and look to it, which is what I tried to explore. This first location that I did is called Tick's apartment. So there's this hacker in the book called Tick, and this is what I imagined his living space to be. So it was a lot about a person's lifestyle, how he goes about his day-to-day. It's based off of this place that used to exist in Hong Kong called the Kowloon Walled City. And it's such an interesting place. It was just this really insulated, introspective, like, ecosystem. It's almost like a slum, but it's like stacked on top of each other, and it was just really hazardous living conditions. There would be like unqualified dentists and surgeons in there, and a whole black market. You could be living next to like a brothel, and it's just like chaos. But I feel like that really gave the Blade Runner vibe to it. So, I mean, Hong Kong has always been quite iconic when it comes to like a cyberpunk genre. It was just really nice to be able to research about my hometown and know more about it. Yeah, so this is the initial sketch and 3D model that I did. You can see that there's a lot of, you know, appliances, and it's very like dense in terms of the set dressing. So I tried to incorporate some more technological elements to it. So this is his workstation, and the idea is that he's kind of running away from the authorities, or he's trying to hide from the authorities. So he has a bunch of the locks on his door, CCTV, and then he has like a getaway plan. So if the police comes in, he'll be able to like grab his stuff and just like leave from the back. Yeah, it's just showing, you know, that. And there's a little grab delivery drone that, you know, might exist in the future. Again, I hate the color palette. This is a prop design of his hacking station, and it was actually inspired by those old makeup boxes that I used to have that like opens up and folds out like that. So I wanted to have the PC parts kind of really haphazardly built inside of it. And yeah, whenever he has to just like be on the run, he can just pack everything really super compact in his briefcase and leave. So one of the big things that I learned from this project as well is aging things. So kind of going in with my line work and adding more detail to show that this place, you know, like even the floor being really disgusting and the cracks on the side of the wall. And this is an interior shot of his room as well. Yeah, pretty much just shows the diet that I had at FZD. I think the focal, like the camera for this one is kind of weird. Like, obviously it's a really compact space, and it was difficult to show like the foreground, midground, background, but I think I could have done more for that and shifted around the space a bit more so the camera wasn't so in your face, because right now the foreground elements look like they're on the same plane as the midground element. So after term 1 I started tattooing at Kingston, so I really wanted to involve some sort of cyborg tattoo shop that, you know, it's not in the book, but it's a believable place that would exist in that world. This is what I came up with. It's based off of Jimmy's Rose Tattoo, which is the first tattoo shop to ever exist in Hong Kong, and it's super old, but I really like this rounded shape that it had on the side of the building. That's in a lot of houses, old houses back in Hong Kong. I think in the 50s. It would be kind of this space where you'd be able to get body modifications for both cyborg parts but also on real human flesh. So this bottom area would have more tech that supports cyborg modification, and then if you go upstairs that will be like tattooing on human flesh. It also says more about the world, how there's a kind of a blurred line between what is machine and what is human. I still want to have some visual elements of traditional Japanese tattooing. So that's why I had like the Hanya mask and the fans and everything. It's very saturated. And I think I could have toned down with the line weight. I don't know why I went so ham with the line weight. Yeah, there would be like this little station that you can like scan your body and it will like show you what it looks like maybe. Maybe Bishop, like it's a brand of tattoo machine, so maybe in the future they might have developed like huge tattooing stations or something. Yeah, there's this whole idea of companies becoming more and more powerful and like kind of dominating a whole industry. This is just a really fun space, and I tried to incorporate all the very iconic signage that they have on Nathan Road in Hong Kong. So the last one that I did is the SimStim CEO office. SimStim is like the mega corporation in Mona Lisa Overdrive. Yeah, the people who are like above everyone else in the social hierarchy. Yeah, let's not talk about the colors. I think I just went to Macca's and I was like, I like the color palette and just put it in there. I really don't like this, but it is what it is. This is the interior of the space. So I wanted to just do a scene where like the CEO might be describing the new product to a client or something like that. I can't look at this. Okay. So it's this really interesting part of the book where they talk about the oracle. So in that world, religion has kind of melded with computer systems. So people are like worshipping technology. There's this really famous temple in Hong Kong called Wong Dai Sin, and I used to go there a lot as a kid. And they have these things where you would put a bunch of sticks into a cup and you would like shake it, and then if one stick falls on the ground, it would like give you your fortune. So it's kind of like, yeah, fortune telling. I wanted to cyberpunkify it, you know, make it into this place where they worship like a supercomputer that kind of tells you your future. This is an exterior shot of what I thought it might look like, and then this is a prop design of what the Oracle unit would be. The shape itself is based off of one of the first supercomputers that were ever made. It's like this platform where you go in and you still kneel there, so that's still like a very traditional type of thing that people do, like there's a kneeling platform, and then you put this thing on your head that reads your brain and has like a neural connection to the computer. Yeah, so I think it was like an interesting take on, you know, technology and how it would influence religion and beliefs in a sci-fi world. So yeah, that's just a call out of what like the headgear might look like. I don't know why I had such a huge obsession with this dark green color. You can see it in like a lot of my work. Maybe it was just like my new favorite color at that time. Yeah, I also wanted to like have these graphics, Oracle unit number 8 or something. So like it will give you your fortune, but it might have some more sinister objective. Like you might be like harvesting people's data or something. I don't know. I mean, that's happening right now, so is it really science fiction? That wraps up my last project. Hadouken! So is concept art school really worth it? Obviously with everything there are pros and cons, so I'll go through the things that I think have benefited me, things that I've gained, but also I'll go through things that, you know, I wish could have been improved on, or, you know, some of the downsides that I've experienced. Starting with the pros, one big one is mileage. And I think that's the main difference between learning by yourself at home and actually being in a competitive learning environment. If there's someone optimizing a schedule for you, someone literally screaming at you every day for deadlines, then you're gonna do it, right? The thing about art fundamentals is that a lot of it is purely just doing a lot of it and gaining that muscle memory. You really need that time dedicated to doing a lot of it in order to get used to drawing a lot every day. The second I would say is mindset. Mindset not only in like expectations, so because you're in that space and your teachers are always giving you like this high expectation of how things have to be, how things have to look, you know, what level looks finished and presentable and professional, and what doesn't. And you're exposed to more of that like higher expectation, along with mindset when it comes to time management and workflow. And I think time management is a big thing, but another thing that's more important is energy management, which is what Kingston really focuses on at FZD. It's not really about planning out your time, but it's more so identifying what tasks require what type of energy from you. And I talked a bit about this before, you know, having right brain and left brain tasks, but that's a really big one because, you know, sometimes when you're just at the end of the day, you don't really want to think about anything, you just want to go home and just paint, and you don't want to think too much about design, because designing requires so much like brain power and like analyzing, distilling information, synthesizing information. It's just so much, and you might you know, not plan that task around parts of the day where you feel very fatigued. And I found this philosophy in mindset to be very useful, not just in concept art but also in everyday life, like how you approach situations, how you approach communicating with people and learning new things. The third thing would be the fact that concept art school allows you to be exposed to a lot of different facets of concept art, right? So it like really piques your interest, and the world just seems a lot more, you know, vibrant and beautiful and intricate, and there's so many things to explore. Yeah, it just makes you feel more, you know, more motivated to go out and learn more about different things, so you can incorporate them in your concept art. And the fourth thing is definitely meeting lifelong friends at school. So I think that in itself is already enough for me. I met one of my best friends, Christy, at the school, as well as like my roommates, Jordan, Pack, and Akil. Shout out to Jordan's YouTube channel, you should totally check him out. Those guys were like super amazing and super supportive, and it's just great to be able to interact with people who have such different upbringings, come from such different cultures from you, and you're still very passionate about the same thing, and come at it at different perspectives. So I think 90% of the students were international students, so we had people from all over the world in our class, and that was super cool. This might only apply in my situation, but if you're moving to a new country to attend school, that's a really cool life experience, because, you know, Singapore is so different from Sydney. So that change of environment, I mean, even if you're still staying in, even if you're moving to a different state, or even if you're staying in the same place, just going to a new physical environment to learn is so life-changing, I feel. It really impacts the way you work. The last one is for sure the mentors that were there. After watching so much design cinema and then actually getting to meet Feng in real life is just so crazy, and he shared a lot of his, you know, years of knowledge, and his outlook on the industry and on concept art is very different from the other teachers, and it's great that different teachers also bring their different experiences to the table. Kingston also, obviously, he was mentoring me in tattooing as well. So he taught me a lot about differentiating between artistic expression in fine art, and also, you know, how to approach more commercial work when it comes to concept art. Yeah, it was really great to just have a variety of views. For the cons, number one, it kind of breaks the bank. Especially living in Singapore, everything is so expensive. Studying art in a school is definitely a huge financial commitment, but, you know, I think if you are planning to make a career switch, it's worth saving up for it. The second con is that you basically have no life for 1 year. I was off social media. I literally deleted Instagram, TikTok, all social media stuff off of my phone, because, you know, I think everyone did that because no one wanted to get distracted, but you kind of get a bit FOMO when all your friends back home are like going to concerts, meeting up, and you're just, you know, drawing cubes every day. But 1 year of sacrificing that, I think, is completely valid. Like, I don't think that's a problem at all. It's more so the fact that you basically don't sleep a lot and don't get to exercise. So I think a lot of people, I don't know, like a lot of people gained a lot of weight. I gained weight as well. I think I gained like 5 kilograms or something. All my joints are creaking now. So a few months earlier I started to go back to the gym, and I couldn't do anything. On the academic side, I feel like going to school might make you become very methodical and academic in the way you approach art. That's something that's definitely happened to me. I think it's more so towards people who didn't really learn art beforehand, because you don't know anything, right? You just kind of go in and listen to the way they do things, and then you make a list and you follow that step by step. They give you instructions and then you do them. But then with art, it's not that straightforward actually. You know, even if you follow something step by step, you might not get a good outcome. You really still need to rely on your eye, and if something does that actually look good, even if I'm following the instructions to the T. And so that's something I had to like unlearn after FZD, being more flexible. So now I'm trying to do more like figure drawing and like loose sketches, trying to like free up my lines and not be too, you know, constricted by all the grids and everything. You know, if you're going to an academic setting for art, you're gonna be learning the academic way of how to approach it. I think one other con is that the stress of school might actually demotivate you in art. During the first term at FZD, a lot of people actually dropped out. Like, I think the dropout rate at FZD is quite high, especially because term 1 is where all the tedious, dry academic stuff is. A lot of people might be disheartened or find that, oh, that's not what I want to do. Or, you know, when people say like, don't make your hobby your job because you end up hating your job, maybe it's something along those lines. You know, it might be the fact that you realize the industry is actually not for you, but at the same time, those tasks that you do don't define how your career is going to be like in the long run. After finishing school, I realized like, this is what you learn in school and this is what exists in the industry and in the job. It's easy to kind of pigeonhole yourself into thinking like, if I don't succeed in drawing these 30 cubes well, then I'm a failure. And then people get that sense of, you know, I don't think I should do this anymore, I should quit. But then obviously, you know, if you really don't think the industry is for you, it's totally valid to quit. It's important to like go through that phase and stick it out, and then there's so much more after that. So there is a danger of going to school and being more demotivated because of the stress. Yeah, just be aware of that. You know, this is not really a con, but it's a limitation because FZD is only 1 year long, right? There's a lot of courses that are only 1 year long. There's only so much you can learn in 1 year. Because of that, a lot of these courses are more outcome focused. So it's more like, okay, how do we help you build a really good portfolio so you can get a job afterwards? I felt like I became more reliant on 3D during term 1 because we started learning 3D really early on. A lot of the fundamentals that we learned weren't fully, I don't think, for me, it wasn't fully developed yet. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing because a lot of people do come out with like a really good portfolio and then you get a job and then you learn on the job. It's just that afterwards I didn't feel as confident, so I have to go back a lot, and now I'm like redoing all the fundamentals and like, you know, perspective drawing and you know, painting, all that stuff, going back and revising basically all the stuff to make myself more confident in them. Same thing with characters and anatomy. That wasn't really focused a lot at FZD because, you know, character design is so saturated. There's so many good people that can do characters. So I think they tried to gear us more towards like props and environments because there's just it's less competitive in that market. As a junior designer, you're probably just gonna be drawing like a rock or like, I don't know, some prop like 300 times. They had a very methodical, a really thought out way of how to segue people into the industry. But it's really up to you afterwards how you will supplement the knowledge and build off of the knowledge that they give you during school. I mean, it's cool. You really can't expect them to fit everything in a 3-year degree in 1 year. You know, there's so many things, like especially in design theory and fundamentals, that is like really nuanced and requires a lot of time to practice. So for the final verdict, yes, I think it is totally worth it to go to concept art school if you have the funds. If not, you know, don't, you know, sell everything, sell your kidney to go to concept art school. There's definitely ways to learn the things that we learned by yourself at home. It just takes a lot of discipline. I do think that it is possible, especially people who are planning to switch careers. I think going to school definitely fast tracks that, and you're not gonna learn, you know, everything. Obviously, it's just like the basics, but it's a good springboard for you to know what there is to learn, so that you can go down those different avenues and explore and expand more by yourself. Now that I'm taking the brainstorm classes, I feel like it's a lot easier for me to absorb the information and understand the language that they're using. Yeah, I've just been trying to really go back to the fundamentals that I learned in term 1 at FZD, and trying to understand all of that on a deeper level. I think there's a misconception that fundamentals are meant to be basic and easy. Yes, they are the building blocks, but they're not easy. You know, it's actually they're actually the most difficult to learn, I would say. Yeah, I think it takes way more time to get that into my tiny brain, but we'll get there. So moving on from FZD, I've just been assisting Kingston at majors with his new curriculum. Been tattooing, I've been doing some freelance projects on the side, and I've been working on a new indie game which I'm very excited about. I've been thinking of doing kind of like a dev vlog / concept art vlog regarding that in the future, so get excited. Yeah, you guys also suggested that I should do a separate video for the Q&As, so type down if you have any last comments. If you have any other videos you would like to see from me in the future, please also put them in the comments below. Also, join our Discord. I've just been trying to build a community where we can all come in and share our art and like keep each other accountable, because I need to be kept accountable of our own progress, and you know, any ideas, any cool games and movies that we're watching, come and join us. The link will be in the description. Yeah, let's chat on Discord. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.